when I get up in the morning. I do not appreciate that. Our administration got to go after the banks because the banks are the one holding everything. The longer you people getting your paycheck, the taxes a year or the months or whatever they're going to pay, guess what? Administration doesn't care about it.
Mr. Mayor, just the last council meeting we had, wasn't there a itemized list of all the banks and people we went after for these unkept houses?
Yes.
Okay.
We have, yes, the liens. We also have a list of all the vacant properties, or at least the ones we've identified, and the owners of those properties. And not all the properties are owned by the banks. Some are owned by individuals, residents within the town that have vacant properties in the town and do not register them. But we do go after as many as we can. I believe there's about 250 vacant homes that we've got registered currently in the township, somewhere in that area, and are collecting. Some are in the first year of the payment plan, some are in the extended, what's it, $5,000, I believe? Yeah. $3,000 or $5,000 they're paying, and most of those are banks. But that's a national issue with these banks that we hear. If anyone at this council, yourself, myself, or the administrator, can figure out how to get the banks to be forced to put these homes on the market, take that nationally, because I tell you, you'll be a hero. None of us are going to figure that out here. We're trying with ways that force these banks to and these vacant property owners to do something. But if they don't mind and they just pay the bill for the vacant home, it's not a law that you can't have a vacant home, but we can attach things to you having a vacant home, like a fee, and that's what we've done. We've tried to create incentives so people will put. It's these banks just keep them on the books, and we can't force them. And the federal government, I agree, needs to step in. No one wants to live next to a vacant home.
Okay.
It's not maintained.
Okay, this administration got every single house number, block number, and I'm pretty sure that secretary will check, or the computer will check if the house is occupied, the house is not occupied.
And
I took account in PL, but I'm not going to tell you guys, hey, you got a code enforcement, let him in, he is going to earn his money. I'm not earning his money. I do my work and I observe it. But God forbid, school just start. The sad part it is that those empty houses, there is little kids coming and get the bus. God bless
But
them.
again, I don't know what you want us to do to put these houses back on the market, or put somebody in these houses, short of the taxpayers buying the house and we own it and then we put somebody in there. I bet we're not going to do that.
Okay, I was told by one of the real estates, not the real estate, but Savilla man who's in charge to all those houses, how the houses jump from one owner to another, one bank to another. There is houses. How? Very simple. Because one bank doesn't want to deal with that property, just go down in prices and go down in prices and go all the way down. That house, if I'm not mistaken, got a have different owner right now. A lot of the houses in PL. And it's sad, because we have to force the bank to do something about it, to fix it, okay? Yes, fix it. Do you think if I'm looking for a house, I'm going to get a dumpster? You got to be crazy. I'm sorry.
We do what we can within the law. We've assessed fines or fees, and we do assess fines, or not fines, but violations when we identify violations. But that's all we're permitted to do.
The code enforcement goes to the houses. I know the 64 square mile. How many code enforcement that you have? You had 3, is correct?
That's correct.
Okay, you got 3 part-timers, or you got 3 full-timers? Okay, 64 square mile. I'm pretty sure they take it 1 week or 1 month, they go to this development, PL development, country lake development, whatever. But still, something has to be done. We cannot live like that. Like I say, I had 3 or 4 houses, 3 in the front of me, and the house in the back. They 6 years ago. I didn't cry in here, one after year after another. Nothing has been done about it. But I will return, and I will continue, further information what is going on. And I just hope that you people can tell me by next month how many houses empty are in Pierre. Because I know my count.
Ms. Quinn, and then Mr. Tompkins. Jack Tompkins.
I may have a suggestion for the council and the administration. Something that Ms. Phillips said made me raise my hand. We have in this township, if I remember, 4 or 5 realtors. Remax, Century 21, Davis, to name a few.
Schneider's.
Yeah, Schneider's. Has anybody ever... I wonder if some kind of a meeting with the realtors, no matter whose office it is. Like, I'm curious to know what they're doing when they have listings to sell houses, like how they're marketing the houses or what they're doing to market Pemberton Township. And I wonder if, you know, some kind of forum can't be started or some kind of committee can't be started with, you know, administration, council, and the public to maybe, you know, put heads together and figure out how to address the issue with the vacant properties. I understand what the mayor is saying about he can only do so much, you know, his hands are tied. Having my own experience with financial institutions and mortgages and things, it's going to take an act of God. You're talking about the Federal Reserve and, you know, the bankers who are very powerful people. Aside from the different fees that the mayor spoke about and the different fines, I've noticed, at least in my area where I live, there are a couple houses that are vacant, and some of them have been vacant for quite some time. Is there any way that we could possibly put a pressure on these property managements that manage these properties for the banks? Because there's every one of these houses have a label or a sign on the front door saying, you know, this property is managed by X, you know, and the number below it. And I've noticed recently of 2 houses that were taken over by a different company. It's a real estate company, but they're a 732 area code. They're not a Burlington County or a Pemberton Township realtor. So it might be a good idea to contact them and find out what they're doing different that our guys haven't been doing or could be doing to try to move some of these houses. So it's just a thought. You know, these for sale signs are not the usual Pemberton realtors. No, and I don't talk to them, so I mean, I don't know, but we've had quite a few out of area realtors now listing houses for sale in our town. Might be something to think about.
Council President, may I address Ms. Quinn?
Sure.
Ms. Quinn, when I served on the Board of Education, Ms. Maldonado, maybe you could take this back, I'm sorry. When I served on the Board of Education some years ago, exactly what you said, how do we promote and we sell our town, was a huge issue. And so what we did was we had a team, a group. The planning board met, this planning board here met, the realtors met, the council met, and we all brainstormed on a Saturday how we could come up with some ideas on promoting our towns. And one of the ideas we had was to do a videotape of our towns, our houses, our schools, and that really worked, because what happened with that videotape, the realtors would receive that videotape, and when a person or persons will come in to purchase a home, that would be produced to them. They would talk about maybe, athletes, Emmons, coming from this town, what he did years ago, and those things like that. I don't know. Maybe that's an idea that Ms. Maldonado could take back to the Board of Education. It worked. It really
might not
did
be a
work.
bad idea to reinstitute it, but my next thought would be is how do we expand it beyond that? Because it seems like after a certain boundary, people don't know who Pemberton Township is. We don't market the town enough. And when I moved here 15 years ago and I was deciding to move here, one of my biggest things was the school district. I came from Philadelphia. I came from Philadelphia's public schools, to which, 27 years later for my daughter, aren't any better today, 27 years later. I do believe in Pemberton schools. I always thought Pemberton had good schools. That was my biggest factor as why I moved here. I still think we have very good schools, and I think we have an athletic program that most schools don't have. I am for this town, and I get angry sometimes, and I sometimes feel like you guys don't listen. And I am for our kids. I don't have any little kids, but I see enough little kids, playing, riding their bikes, whatever. And I know that neighborhoods, repopulate. You go through a period of having little kids, and they grow up, and and then the cycle starts all over again. But the message that I've been getting is they don't want to recycle. The generations don't want to come back here. They don't like Pemberton Township. They don't like what it's become. Trying to move our vacant properties and getting people to come to town, come live here, and it falls back on economic development. Browns Mill Shopping Center, continues to be an eyesore, and it's been quite a while that the residents have gotten any kind of update as to where our development projects might be. And there's the 2 properties or 3 properties that were purchased recently on Juliustown, Lakehurst Road. I know you don't put building up overnight, but we'd like to know, where things stand other than the added of, we don't have anything to report. So to promote the town and promote the schools and being a good place to live, we have to get people to want to come here. I came here because I wanted to, because I liked the way the town was. It was a small town, and the schools were better than Philadelphia. I want to see Pemberton bring that back, because I think we've lost it over the years. Because we pay an awful lot of money in taxes, whether it's our school taxes, our township taxes, and our county taxes. And I'd also like the council to know, as a Burlington County College graduate, the Pemberton Township campus could be an opportunity for us to put Pemberton back on the map. I'm not saying that we've fallen off the map, so to speak, but however it comes down, because, I've heard that the mayor is supposed to be meeting with the freeholders and officials from Rowan and whatnot. None of us know what's going to happen to that site. All I can say is it needs to be a rateable. It cannot be anything else but a rateable, something that could draw people back to Pemberton Township. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. I'm sure, Mr. Mayor, you'll be meeting with the superintendent. Thank you very much.
Mr. Allen, thanks for letting me come back up. Hopefully this will be real quick, but I got to add, this town is a really nice little town. I relocated from my hometown up in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I had a choice to stay here after I retired, or I could have gone anywhere else in the world, and I mean anywhere else in the world. Being military, I've lived everywhere. This is a nice town. We have problems, but they're problems that other small communities have as well. And I'm sure we will overcome them. There's a lot of things in this community that other towns don't have, and I really do appreciate being a citizen of this town. Now, going into why I come up, we had the ordinance next week, or next council meeting, for the police ordinance, and you folks are going to redo something with it next time you have the council meeting. But it does say on there very, very clearly that the public hearing was already held.
Right.
Are you going to have an opportunity for the public to come up and address the council again, or is this just going to be a straight vote? And the reason I ask that is we do have a new council member that may not have been present during those first hearings, and it might be nice to have those reopened up for people to bring up their concerns, and it has been 6 months.
I guess it depends on the way the agenda is. It will probably remain the same, but there will be a public comment at the beginning of the agenda, just like it is tonight. And there will also be, you mentioned Mr. Cathers, there will also be a period for council discussion. So if Mr. Cathers has any comments or would like to discuss anything with council, he also will get that opportunity.
Right, and I don't mean to be saying anything derogatory.
I will personally research this ordinance. This way I will be up to date with it. I have past recordings of the meetings, and I'll be able to listen to them and be up to date with them. When I did take this position as council individual, I knew there were areas I would need to do extensive research on.
Right, and I wasn't trying to be derogatory or nothing like that.
I do not take it that way.
But it's just, it's been 6 months. It might be nice to open them up to refresh everybody's memory on some of the things that were brought up. I mean, I'm lucky I actually have the ordinance from back then where I wrote all my notes, so I still kept that and have that. But if I wouldn't have kept that, some of the things might not be fresh in my mind right now. It has been a long time. So it's something I would like to respectfully ask you to consider at the next council meeting. Okay, thank you.
Your concerns are appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Petronas?
Mr. Petronas, while you come up, I'm not trying to read your mind, but somebody mentioned your name, a resident, and they were talking about South Lakeshore Drive, and they mentioned your name. I don't know if that's what you're coming up to talk about, but could you kind of throw it in your comments? Thank you. I'm sorry, Jason. They mentioned your name. I can't tell you who.
Yes, I understand you can. I didn't quite understand what it was that you asked you to comment on.
South Lakeshore Drive.
South Lakeshore Drive.
Yes.
Okay. I can probably talk loud enough, but...
Gotta be recorded.
All right. George Petronas. Is it recording?
Yes.
Okay. George Petronas, Browns Mills. In deference to your request, Mrs. Stinney, South Lakeshore Drive is cracked from one end of the road to the other. There are a couple of areas where 100 feet or so have been patched, but if you drive up and down South Lakeshore Drive, there are some places where the crack down the middle of the road is wide enough that you can put your fist into it. One of the last times that the engineers were here present at a public meeting, one of them mentioned that they were looking into whether or not they could get some kind of federal assistance because some of the damage to some of the roads was done during Sandy. When Kelly was the engineer for representing the township, after the previous hurricane, Irene, I mentioned some of the damage to that had occurred during Irene to her on South Lakeshore Drive, and she asked me to get her some photographs. So I think that it may be possible, if someone were to check with the engineering company, that they may have a record showing damage to South Lakeshore Drive as a result of Irene, and then further damage as a result of Sandy. So it might be worth pursuing that with them, just in case they can get, it's still tax money, but at least some of it comes from somewhere other than here, in case they could get some money to help repair South Lakeshore Drive out of the federal government. Thank you for reminding me of that.
And thank you very much. And she said, the young lady lives around in that area, that she had spoken. Mr. Calders, you live around that area too, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, okay, right, yeah. And she did mention your name, and she said she had spoken with you several times, and I said, well, refresh my memory, and I said, if he shows up at a meeting, I'm going to ask him if he would, kind of, speak a little bit on that road, because I don't travel that road very much, but, I'm not exactly sure where you were talking about the cracks in the road, but you saved me on my comments. But thank you, Council President.
Again, thank you for reminding me. I've talked to a number of people. I go bicycling on that road.
Yeah, they
So
tell me.
I every once in a while I end up sitting on the ground instead of running smoothly down the road. I've had occasion to talk to a number of people. So
they tell me.
I'm glad someone brought that to your attention, and I appreciate your bringing
Thank
it
you,
to
sir.
mind. If the council wishes, if the administration wishes, I can take some photographs and bring them to the next meeting if I make it. I did want to come up here. I've been listening to other people making comments, and it's given me a couple of thoughts that I'd like to reinforce. First, Council President, may I address a comment to the administration?
Speak your comment, and then if they choose to respond to it,
Okay.
but just say your comment.
Okay. Mayor, there have been one or two times, I can't remember exactly when, but I think there have been one or two times when we've slightly disagreed on certain issues. But in this one, I have to absolutely agree with you. The problem with vacant properties in this town, and probably nationwide, is the mortgage companies and the banks, and the resistance they offer to getting anything accomplished. I have worked with several friends who have been in trouble with their mortgages. I've tried to help them negotiate with mortgage companies through council, through various forums that are set up by the federal government, by the state, and I've found that the mortgage companies are generally not very responsive. I've got a short sale offer in on a property in Country Lakes that's been in place and qualified properly for over a year, almost a year and a half, and the mortgage company involved simply doesn't want to move forward on it, and there's nothing that can be done about it. So I agree with you, Mayor. The mortgage companies that hold a lot of these properties are essentially collectively the Berardi of mortgage. On the other hand, I do remember a lot of the discussion that occurred on the police ordinance. And there was a lot of forceful public comment. There was a lot of public sentiment expressed, and at the time, the council wisely chose to table the issue until certain tensions with the police department were eased. Again, speaking to people that I've run into in the community, my general impression is that a lot of those tensions have not eased yet. So I would urge you to consider whether this is the appropriate time to reintroduce that, or whether it would be wise to table it for a little while longer before getting into it. Finally, on the issue of bonds in general. Bonds are the first obligation of a township to pay off. There is almost no way under any crisis situation, including bankruptcy, that you can get away without paying on a bond. So as the debt service increases, it is essentially, every time you vote to approve a bond, you are essentially passing an additional mortgage on every homeowner in this town, including all of you. I understand that sometimes it's necessary to borrow, but sometimes, and far too often, not specifically in this government, but in government in general, in our nation, in the world, the tendency to borrow rather than paying now is equivalent to people who get in trouble by going too deep into debt with their credit cards. And I urge you to take that into consideration the next time a bond issue comes up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment period is now closed. Council member comments?
I'll be quick. Thank you very much for addressing that, Mr. Petronis. Thank you very much for Dave looking into with the superintendent on how to sell and market our town, and I'm sure that we constantly do that all the time, but back there in the day, it really did work. It kind of worked, suggestions, ideas, and all of those sorts of things. Speaking of roads, I received a call from a young lady on Apple. I think she served on the road committee or something this evening. And they were very grateful that the Public Works came down today and did some finishing, as I guess they called it, touches on Apple Avenue. And what happened was there were a lot of stones that they had used on the sides, and they ended up packing a neighbor's house, a young lady's house. She has about 4 or 5 kids or something like that. And I told them that I would just briefly mention it tonight, instead of having opposed to, emailing it over, mention it to you. If maybe you could have somebody check out on it. And Council President or to the Mayor, if you could maybe at our next council meeting, because that South Lakeshore Drive doesn't sound too nice, could we have someone check that out and, get back with us and tell us what can be done, please?
Sure, we'll go out and look at it.
Okay.
I know it's definitely in need of some repairs.
Oh, really? Okay, all right. That's all. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. I know sometimes we do get upset, and it's okay. I do try to listen to everyone. As you can see, we don't have very many people that come out. I try to encourage them to come out to the meetings, voice your opinion, and so on and so forth, because not everyone has a computer and it's heard on CDs and those sorts of things like that. So, going around in the schools and the township, you still get an opportunity to learn or hear the thoughts and sentiments of the residents. So I thank everyone for their comments, and it's okay. It's okay if we get upset, because I've gotten upset many times. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Center. Ms. Trueblood.
I just want to say, everyone, thank you for coming out, and I want to say thank you, Jack Tompkins, for bringing in giving us this and having it printed about adopting the speed humps. And with Ms. Maldonado, we would like to go into the Trenton Road as well, because that is a concern right there, as a lot of children are walkers. And what Ms. Quinn said and Councilman Stinney said also about maybe reaching out to the realtors to see what could be done about promoting the town and the sales of the homes. So thank you, and have a great night.
Jensen.
Thank you, Council President. I just have a couple of comments. Mr. Tam mentioned about saving money on the BMIA building, the courtroom, room 10, and I believe we did save money by having it done in-house, opposed to going out and having all those jobs done. So I do believe we saved a lot of money in that area, even though I was not on council at the time. I also wanted to say, as Ms. Trueblood said, thank you to Jack for the information. And I know without a shadow of a doubt you will be here every meeting checking on us with the humps, as you should, as you should. Also, like Ms. Stinney and Ms. Trueblood said, as far as our passion about certain topics and getting upset, we all do have those moments, but I just think that, or ask that we all be mindful of how things come out sometime. And no, nothing to you, Ms. Quinn. I know your passion for things, and that's all fine. We all have budgets. This is a hard time for everybody in this day and age. But, you know, we just have to, as do counsel to the public, learn how to speak to one another and just watch our tone. But I understand your passion for what you're standing for. And as far as the Miss Maldonado with the Trenton Road, all of us have our children's lives in our forefront. We all want our children to be safe. So we are going to, at least I can't speak for council, but I will help encourage or ask for the chief and push for the chief to continue to go ahead and get those things done, as well as police presence at Emmons and Bazansky. The last thing any of us want to hear at a council meeting is someone coming up here and say something happened to their child, and that you've been asking for police presence and some speeders and so forth and so on. So we thank you for all of your comments. We thank you for your passion for the town, your opinions, and as always, we just have to learn to not agree with each other all the time, but just learn to respect and listen to each other's opinion. So everyone, with that and said, everyone have a good night, and thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Dr. Cathers.
Thank you. Thank you for exercising your constitutional rights of freedom of speech. It's great to see that the Constitution does work in this great nation. Jack, thank you very much for the speed humps. We even considered having speed humps put into our street. However, we knew that there were certain laws, and you helped clear up some issues that we have in ourselves. When one person speaks, you represent thousands of other people. We listen to everything everyone says. There is a formula in reference to the amount of hours a vehicle runs versus the miles. It's 50 miles per hour. And the average police car, if it runs 15 hours per day, will accumulate approximately 400,000 miles in 1.46 years. So that formula, plus the mileage, is what's used to determine how long emergency vehicles are used. And that's used on all types of equipment. That's used on emergency vehicles. Jack, you know this from the Air Force. That's used in vehicles in the Air Force. It's a common formula across the board. However, with maintenance and with new technologies today, that 4.6 years of shelf life of service life has increased, probably double to triple itself. So there is some wonderful things in there. Mike, as far as we were speaking about, or Mr. Tam, I should say, should be more formal, as far as we were speaking about, it's very interesting to hear the comments. People have, everybody, no matter whom it is, when somebody says something, they have something of interest, they have something of importance to say. Even if it's a young child up to the most senior citizen, listen to what they say, and I listen to what everybody says, and I take all in consideration that we're making decisions and judgments up here in this board. I thank you very much for having me up here, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you very much for all that you have done for our township, and I hope I can repay you by being a good council person. Thank you.
I'd just like to welcome Dr. Cathers to the council. I think you did an excellent job tonight. I know you researched a lot of or all of the agenda items, and were prepared to discuss the ordinance 6 tonight, and it sounds like you'll be doing additional research for the next meeting. Ms. Stinney mentioned how to sell and promote our township, and just off the top of my head, I was jotting down some ideas, and honestly, I think some of these items are things that we're already doing. We're redoing and maintaining the roads. We're pursuing grants to improve the township. You improve infrastructure. You redo parks and recreational activities. You maintain taxes. You think of creative ways to improve the township and save money through things such as shared services. you have a school board liaison come to the township meetings to address the concerns of the schools. All of these things are things that we're doing as a community, as the administration, as town council. We're trying to work together. Can we do a better job? Absolutely. You know, there's always work that can be done, but I think this council does try hard. Everything is not going to be as, you know, people that sit in the audience would like it to be. Why? Because that's your opinion. We all have opinions. That being said, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out, and I look forward to seeing you all at the October 7th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Moderator, stand up.